Wu Tianming's film, The King of Masks, highlights two aspects of Chinese culture. The first is Chinese Buddhism, and the second is Chinese theater. In terms of Chinese theater, the title of the film stems from the profession of the protagonist. He makes his money as a street performer who can change facial expressions very quickly by the use of masks. This is a very important aspect of Sichuanese opera, and the film is set in Sichuan in the 1930s. The film's plot centers around the King of Masks' search for an heir, someone who he can pass his skill on to. A second aspect of Chinese theater that's important to note to understand the film is the tradition of female impersonation. It's very common in Chinese theater for men to play the roles of women and women to play the roles of men. In The King of Masks, one of the other major characters is a male actor who impersonates females, particularly the Buddhist bodhisattva or savior figure, Guanyin. In the Buddhist tradition, the goal of human life is to get rid of attachments and desires and enter nirvana, a state of bliss. People who are able to do this become Buddhas, but some choose to delay their own entry into nirvana and become what are called bodhisattvas, or savior figures, who remain on earth to help those who are in need. One of these is the Bodhisattva Guanyin, or in Japanese, Kanon. The Bodhisattva Guanyin has a long tradition in Chinese Buddhism, and her story is actually told in the film in the form of a play that we see acted by the actor who impersonates her. In the play, we see Guanyin attempting to save her father, a king who's been threatened because of the burning down of a temple for which he has been blamed by an evil minister. As the play progresses, we notice how Guanyin hangs from a rope, threatening to fall into a pit of death if her father is not released. When the authorities refuse to grant her request, she cuts the rope, falls into the pit of death, and emerges a few minutes later as a saint. So the character's Guanyin's entry into nirvana becomes significant, and as we'll see later in the film, Guanyin, this doer of good deeds and assister of those in need, becomes significant when the actor himself begins to meld in not only in his role as the character Guanyin, but as himself a bodhisattva figure who becomes a savior. One other Buddhist principle that's important to understand is that of reincarnation or transmigration. The Buddhists believe that at the end of this life, they will have a chance to return to life again, but their status in the next life depends on how they performed in this life. If they have done good deeds, they'll be reborn as a person in a better status, ready for nirvana. Or if their deeds are not as good, they could be reborn as an animal or even an insect. In the film, we see this depicted when the King of Masks has been imprisoned when he is accused of kidnapping. As we discover in the scene he has with his young female apprentice, and who he refers to as Doggy, we see how he reveals some of these principles of Buddhism, in particular, the belief in what is called as karma. The idea of karma is that one's deeds in this life will influence their next life. As the King of Masks has faced a series of challenges, from Doggy inadvertently burning down his boat to being accused of kidnapping and being imprisoned on capital charges, we note how he tries to reassure her and explains the disasters as being a part of karma, something he did wrong in the previous life. This sets up in the film a need for a savior figure, and that becomes the climax of the film, which you'll see in just a few minutes.